Mary Magdalene, apostle, heretic, saint, and dragon bearer? You've heard her name. In stained glass windows, she's the weeping sinner. In Gospels, she's the first to witness resurrection. In legends, she sails to France. But in deeper, stranger traditions, she walks with dragons. Not the kind that guards treasure in children's books. These dragons speak in symbols. They twist through sacred art, spiral around myth, and coil inside spiritual memory. From Gnostic scrolls to modern mysticism, Magdalene is linked not just to Christ, but to serpents, sacred lines, and cosmic transformation. So, what's going on here? Today, we're not just telling her story. We're following the tale of dragons wrapped around her name. Through biblical canon, esoteric lore, psychological archetypes, and forbidden symbolism, we'll uncover how Mary Magdalene became a keeper of fire and why the church may have buried more than just her truth. This is Vortex Mythology, and this is the journey into the divine through Mary Magdalene and the dragon. If you're enjoying this video, please do give us a like and subscribe. It's so important to help the channel grow. We really appreciate it, and we have so much more we want to share. Let's begin with what we know. Mary Magdalene appears more often in the Gospels than most of the apostles. She's present at the crucifixion. She follows Jesus during his ministry. Most importantly, she's the first witness to the resurrection, making her, in early Christian communities, a figure of immense spiritual authority. The Gospel of John says Jesus spoke her name, Mary, after rising from the dead. She was the first to recognize him, and she was sent to tell the others. That moment earned her the title Apostola Apostolorum, the apostle to the apostles. But centuries later, her image changed. Around 591 CE, Pope Gregory the Great publicly conflated her with the unnamed sinful woman who anointed Jesus' feet. From then on, she was cast as a repentant prostitute, a fallen woman whose story served penitence more than power. That portrayal lasted for nearly 14,000 years. Only recently has the Vatican acknowledged that Mary Magdalene was not the same woman as the prostitute of Luke's Gospel. In 2016, Pope Francis elevated her feast day to the same status as the male apostles, a symbolic restoration of her dignity. But while the church recast her, something strange was happening outside its walls. In medieval folklore, another version of Magdalene survived. According to French legend, Mary arrived in Provence after Christ's ascension, along with her siblings Martha and Lazarus. She withdrew into solitude, living the final decades of her life in a cave called Saint Baume. Deep in the mountains, it was said she was fed by angels and lifted by the heavens in daily ecstasy. But it's her sister, Saint Martha, who introduces the first dragon. In the town of Tarascon, Martha subdued a beast known as the Tarasque, a dragon-like creature that terrorized the people. She didn't slay it with a sword or flame. She tamed it with prayer, water, and a cross. Here's the twist. While Martha defeats the beast, Magdalene disappears into legend. But in some mystical traditions, that very dragon becomes hers, not a defeated monster, but a sacred companion. From the hills of Provence to the vales of Avalon, whispers of Magdalene's connection to dragons never fully vanished. They grew louder in hidden orders, esoteric teachings, and Gnostic dreams. So, what does a dragon have to do with Mary Magdalene? In Gnostic texts, those early Christian writings excluded from the Bible, Mary often appears not just as a disciple, but as a mystic and a revealer of secret knowledge. In the Gospel of Mary, she comforts the apostles and explains Christ's teachings when they falter. In these texts, she embodies divine wisdom, Sophia, the fallen feminine principle that must be restored. Sophia, in historic tradition, is often presented by serpentine imagery, coiling, spiraling, descending, and rising again. Dragons and serpents, in this context, are not demons. They're vessels of gnosis, of power and transformation. They're symbols of hidden knowledge and spiritual rebirth. Some modern sources go further. In the Ascension Glossary, Magdalene is described as a dragon priestess, a title tied to ancient Avalon, to pre-Christian goddess lineages, to the restoration of Sophia. Here, dragons are not adversaries, they're allies, cosmic intelligences, guardians of the sacred feminine, carriers of memory across dimensions. It sounds fantastical, but even the Book of Revelation places a dragon at the center of a vision involving a woman. In Revelation 12, a woman clothed with the sun and crowned with stars gives birth to a child destined to rule the nations. A red dragon seeks to devour the child, but the woman is given wings and escapes. Traditionally, this woman is interpreted as the Virgin Mary or the Church itself. But some theologians argue this woman also echoes Mary Magdalene, birthing a new spiritual lineage under persecution, surviving not through conquest, but through divine wisdom. So, in both canonical scripture and suppressed texts, Mary Magdalene's world is filled with serpents and dragons and cosmic struggle. But here's the difference. She doesn't kill the dragon. She carries it. If we shift from theology to psychology, the picture deepens. In Jungian analysis, the dragon represents the shadow, the primal fear, the chaos we suppress, the unknown we flee from. But it also guards the treasure, the wisdom, individuation, true selfhood. To confront the dragon is to confront yourself. In mythology across cultures, heroes must face the dragon, not just to win battle, but to evolve, to cross into a new form of being. And the feminine archetype is often linked to the dragon in dual forms, as the maiden sacrificed to it, or as the sorceress who controls it. But Mary Magdalene breaks this binary. She isn't a victim or a sorceress. She's a spiritual bridge. In Eastern traditions, dragons are revered. The Chinese lung is wise, benevolent, and powerful, a symbol of heavenly force, not infernal evil. In contrast, the West demonized serpents, rooted in Genesis, story of Eden and the fall. Mary Magdalene walks the tightrope between both. She carries the Western fear of the fallen woman, and yet, in deeper traditions, she mirrors the Eastern reverence, the woman who understands power, not by dominating it, but by becoming one with it. Her dragon is not a beast to conquer, it's the fire she survives, the chaos she weaves into wisdom. Now we step into more contested ground, the Magdalene Bloodline theory. Popularized by books like The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail and the Da Vinci Code, the idea suggests that Mary Magdalene and Jesus were married and had descendants, whose bloodline was protected by secret societies, Templars, or priestess orders. In some versions of this story, Magdalene carried the dragon bloodline, symbolizing divine knowledge, spiritual inheritance, and even unique generic traits like Rh negative blood. There's no historical evidence to support these claims. Most scholars view them as esoteric myth-making, not fact. And yet, myths survive for a reason. In the mystical schools of Avalon, it's said Magdalene arrived in France, but as a bearer of sacred codes. The serpent, the spiral, the divine feminine, the dragon. Even if we set aside the literal bloodline, the metaphor remains powerful. Mary Magdalene carried a spiritual lineage that the world tried to forget. And perhaps the dragon was not in her veins, but in her voice, in the wisdom she carried across oceans, in the fire that she refused to extinguish. There's a tension at the heart of all dragon myths. In the West, dragons are problems. In the East, they're guides. In the Bible, the dragon is Satan. In Avalon, it's Sophia's guardian. Even among the saints, we find contradictions. Martha subdues the dragon. Margaret slays it. But Mary Magdalene, she walks beside it. The oldest mythological pattern in the world is Chaos Camp. The heroes slaying the monster of chaos. Murdoch slays Tiamat. St. George slays the dragon. Christ tramples the serpent. But Magdalene's myth does something different. She doesn't reclaim the dragon. In her story, chaos is not the enemy. It's the raw material of a transformation. Even online, Magdalene's dragon story is being rewritten. Reddit threads discuss dragons as guardians of sacred groves, beings who protect power, not hoard it. Others note how the church's slaying of dragons mirrors its silencing of women, that the dragon is not a threat, but a metaphor for what was buried. On spiritual forums, people think of Magdalene as a balance bringer, someone who holds both the sword and the spiral. One user writes, "Dragons are not monsters. They're memory. Magdalene is the one who dared to remember." Her story is being reclaimed by mystics and also by modern seekers now. And it's not because we want to romanticize history, but because we sense something was taken from it. And maybe the dragon is the key to what was lost. So, what is the truth of Mary Magdalene and the dragon? Was she a disciple or a priestess? A weeping penitent or a spiritual warrior? A forgotten woman or the guardian of a cosmic truth too wild to tame? Maybe she was all of these. Maybe her dragons were never beasts to be slain, but forces to be understood. Chaos, pain, memory, power. The primal things we bury when we're told to be silent. And maybe Magdalene just asked to be seen, not as a shadow of Christ, but as a light of her own. And maybe the dragon was her voice. Thank you for watching, and if this story stirred something ancient in you, give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. We're just getting started. Until next time, listen closely.